Right, today I'm going to show you how to change the brake lines on a VFR 750. I bought the bike off a friend of mine for 600 quid. I've spent just over £500 on it, getting it back into a rideable and safe condition. The bike looks really good now, but it does have the original 3 brake lines on there, which goes over the mudguard. They're very hard to bleed, and also they're a bit spongy on the old brakes. So what I'm going to do is bin all that, and I'm going to put some braided hoses on from Hell, and it's going to be the 2-line system, which is sort of race spec. I'll show you the bike and what type of condition it's in, and I'll also show you the brake lines sort of before and after. Right, this is the kit I bought. I bought it online from WeMoto. It's an online motorcycle spares shop. I've used them many times to buy bits for the Honda, the Yamaha, BMW. They're reasonably priced, and they really quick on the delivery. This is the kit I've got. I've got the 2 braided hoses as opposed to the 3, and it also comes with all the little bits and pieces you need: the 2 banjo bolts, copper washers, and also when you're changing from a 3-line brake system to a 2-line, you also need this little bolt here, which enables you to connect it to the master cylinder, connect the 2 lines to the master cylinder. So we'll get that fitted. Okay, this is the bike. It's a VFR 750, and it's year 1997. If anybody's interested, it's an RC36, and it's the FV version. As you can see, well, if you saw it before, it was a right wreck, and now it's actually tidy and safe to ride. This is the original system fitted by Mr. Honda himself. Obviously you've got the brake master cylinder with the fluid in, and I don't know if you can see, but you have the 1 brake line attached here, and that goes down through the fairing, and just underneath, it's a bit dark, but you'll be able to see that the brake line comes down through here, and there's a splitter just at the back here, a bit dark to see. Obviously it goes down to the left caliper, and then it goes down to the right caliper. This is sort of like the problem here, this little tube. It's very difficult to get the air out of it, and even if you do, which I have, it still leaves the brakes a little bit spongy. Right, this is obviously my brake lever, and at the moment the brakes, they're pretty good, but they are a little bit soft, a little bit spongy, and they don't give you much confidence when riding the bike on the road, hence the upgrade to the braided hoses. Okay, I've shown you the bike, I've shown you the 3 lines on the bike, which I'm going to change to 2. Now, if you're going to do this, it's quite simple to do with the old spanner and somebody pumping the brake to get the air out of the lines and the brake fluid through. But I bought a little kit, this one. It was on eBay, £7.90, and it is absolutely brilliant if you're doing any brake works on a motorcycle. Okay, this is the vacuum pump, and obviously it's got a nice case. Inside you have a selection of hoses. You have 2 hoses, the vacuum pump, you have the reservoir, and various little attachments which go onto the bleed nipple in order to sort of get the brake fluid out of the caliper. These are not really the right size for a motorbike. They're mainly designed for a car, but it'll fit some motorcycles, but it doesn't fit others. I mean, myself, I just connect the end of the hose up to the bleed nipple, and it seems to cause enough vacuum in order to get the job done. Okay, the first thing we need to do is obviously take the old brake fluid out, and we do this by removing the top of the master cylinder. Obviously keep your screws safe. also be careful of any overspill of brake fluid. I'm twisting the handlebars like this in order to make the master cylinder level, because obviously if it was on the side, you take the top off and you just have brake fluid all down your bike and stripping your paintwork. There we go, everything comes off nice and easy. Okay, now I've removed the top of the master cylinder. Obviously we've got to get that old brake fluid out, and we're going to connect up our vacuum pump and suck all that out nice and easily. Right, this is a vacuum kit, and from this kit we've got two hoses, It's a bit cold in here, so they're not very flexible, but never mind. Right. We also have a connector. There we go, to make two lines. And we shall have a smaller hose. Right, so basically we've made well, a sort of U shape or Y shape. Right, due to the nature of the job, I am going to get in the way a bit, but I'll try and show you as much as possible. Right, obviously these two ends, they connect to the bleed nipples, and they just push on. It's quite a tight fit. Right, as I say, there are adapters in the box, but they don't really fit on the nipples on the bike. Okay, next we fit the canister or container. Another little tube. It's a bit difficult because it's bloody freezing in this garage. And then obviously our pump. Right, now everything's connected up. Obviously we've got our vacuum pump, we've got our container, we've got the two hoses going down to the left and right side of the brake calipers. Right, next thing we do, we pump it up. You can probably see the gauge rise in there. Get a nice good vacuum in it. That should be enough. Obviously check they're on securely. Right, we take our spanner and we open up one of the bleed nipples. You can open both bleed nipples if you want. I suppose it makes it quicker, but one should be enough. Here we go. And you might be able to see the brake fluid coming out through the lines and obviously into our little container. Keep giving it a pump because obviously as the fluid comes out the vacuum does go down. And as you can see, the brake fluid is in the container. Might be able to hear the hissing. That's because the master cylinder is now empty. Right, okay. And there's going to be a bit of brake fluid in the calipers, but just be aware of that when you take the lines off. Do our nipples back up. And it's worth just using the vacuum pump it up to a good pressure and then pull the hoses off. That way then it sucks the excess fluid through the pipe and it doesn't spill all over the bike. As you can now see, the master cylinder is empty, so next we're going to remove the brake lines. Okay, I'm going to start with loosening the banjo bolt on the master cylinder. Just crack that open, and it's a good idea to get a cloth. And just rest it underneath just in case you do get a bit of seepage. There we go, that's finger loose now. Okay, next we're going to undo the banjo bolt on the brake caliper, which is this one. Again, it's going to be a residue of fluid, so just make sure you catch that, stop it spilling all over the bike. There we go, that's the old banjo. There's another washer in here. There we go. And just give the area a little bit of a clean, just in case there's any crap in there. Alright, the next bit we're going to do is dismantle this sort of across the mudguard piece. Okay, next thing we're going to do is just undo this little Allen bolt here to detach the over the mudguard pipe from the bike. I haven't got Allen key sockets, so I've just got an Allen key and a pair of mole grips just to give me a bit more purchase. There we are, that's loosened off. There we go, and we put the bolt back in because it actually attaches the mudguard to the forks on the bike. This is my makeshift tool, and just nip that up. There we are, don't have to be mega tight, but as long as it's just nipped in there. And now we do the same to the other side. Crack that open, and again you've got excess brake fluid, so just make sure you've got a cloth under it. Again, we got another Allen screw in here which we need to undo. And again, put the Allen screw back in. As they say, it's to hold the mudguard in place. And then just nip it up. As you can see, it's all nice and loose and ready to come off. So back to the master cylinder. Right, here we are back at the master cylinder. This is nice and loose, so this will come out quite easily. Alright, you don't need this bolt because with the kit it comes with a longer bolt with the 2 holes, so the 2 brake lines will fit into the master cylinder. So you can bin that one. It's worth noting that the 2 banjo bolts that came out with the calipers, you can keep them for spares if you ever should need them. But as I say, I'm renewing them because they came with the kit. Again, mind all the excess brake fluid, make sure you don't get spillage everywhere. Right. So that's all the brake lines disconnected, ready to be just unclipped from down in the fairing, and then they should pull out. Right, I've slid the brake pipe down, but on this particular model there's a little bracket just down here. It's too difficult to get the camera in to show you. There's 2 10mm bolts, and you just need to loosen them to undo the clip in order for the brake line to be pushed down. Unfortunately, on this model, the bracket that holds brake pipe is also attached to the horn. Not to worry. There we go. And that's our brake lines removed. Okay, this is the horn with the bracket and everything. Obviously all brake lines removed. I just need to refit that back to the bike because obviously I need a horn. Right, so the next thing we have to do is determine which way round and sort of like where these actually fit. If you have a look at the brake lines, you've got 2 brake lines obviously, and you have one shorter than the other. I don't know if you can see that. Right, so obviously take the shortest one because that's going to go on first. Because it's the nearest one to the master cylinder and it goes down to the right hand side of the bike. Alright, so if you also notice on the ends, they sort of slightly different angles. If you have a look on your bike, you'll be able to see that this end goes into the caliper and this end is sort of shaped, if you like, twisted around so it'll fit into the master cylinder. So let's do that. Alright, so we know which way round our cable goes, so it's just a matter of routing it. We need to take it down through the original clips. A little bit awkward. Right, now my cable is roughly routed in. I'm going to attach it to the brake caliper first. Out of our little kit we have a banjo bolt, and two copper washers. So I put a copper washer on, put it through the banjo, another copper washer, and then attach it to the brake caliper. Obviously be careful not to cross thread anything, otherwise you not only knacker the banjo, you also knacker your caliper. There we are. So do it up by hand first, then you know it's gone on nice and easy and there's no cross threads. Right, and then same again the other side. Right, so I've got my two cables now. The longer one goes to the left caliper, the right one, the shorter one to the right caliper. Right, you need to get your bolt kit. Right, and you'll notice, as I mentioned earlier, that's the old banjo, that's the new banjo. Obviously you can see the difference. One's longer and the new one's got two holes in it, obviously for the two pipes. Right, again we need our copper washers, and this bit is a little bit on the fiddly side, so you have to bear with me. Alright, copper washer goes on first, then your left hand pipe, another copper washer, then your right hand pipe, and then your third copper washer. So that's your setup. And I say it is a little bit fiddly to get in, so you'll have to bear with me. Right. Do everything up by hand first. I say this is a bit awkward because the pipes tend to be a bit stiff and they jam, so you just need to sort of have a bit of patience, wiggle them around, and it'll go eventually. There you go, that's as much as I can do by hand. Right, next thing to do, now everything is tightened up by hand, is nip everything up with our socket. Just making sure all the brake lines line up. There we go. Just sort of like hand tight on there, and the same on the calipers. Right, so that's everything all hand tight. Next thing we need to do is use our torque wrench and tighten everything up to this specific torque, which in this case is 35 Newton meters. Okay, now you can see everything is all fitted and tightened up. Might not be able to see much down here. We'll get a torch. There we are, caliper and the brake lines. They need a bit of routing, but I'll sort that out in a minute. Also, another thing I've noticed, because we're using an aftermarket kit, let's see if I can get this in. I don't know whether you can see it. Let's get the torch. Alright. Yeah, you can see that the brake line is a little bit floppy. Now, normally there'd be a sort of bracket just holding it in place there so it doesn't rest on the mudguard. But what I'll do, I'll get everything fitted, and then I'll get a couple of brackets made up, and then I can just sort of attach the hose there so it keeps it off the mudguard and sort of in place properly. But that's a job I can do after I finish. Okay, as they say, we've got to fill up the master cylinder with brake fluid. I'm going to connect up my vacuum pump to the brake calipers, open up those bleed nipples, suck all the air out, and hopefully we'll have a non-spongy brake, giving us a bit more confidence on the road. Okay, I've got my pump set up. I've filled the master cylinder with brake fluid, so now it's just create a vacuum, open the bleed nipples, and hopefully all the air will come out. If we do one side for a bit, then the other side for a little bit, hopefully then we can get the fluid down pretty quick. Also worth noting is keep an eye on the level of the brake fluid in the master cylinder, because you don't want that running down, otherwise you're going to get air in it and you'll have to start all over again. Okay guys and girls, I've been working on these brakes for a bit now, trying to bleed the system, get the air out of it. Unfortunately, there's still no pressure in the actual brake lever itself. Right, I've double checked all my banjos, I've double checked all my lines, my washers, everything's torqued up and fitted correctly. And on further inspection, I've noticed that there's a leak coming from the master cylinder itself. Unfortunately, it's one of those things, the rubber has popped on it, so I need to get a repair kit for that, and join me next time. I'll show you how to repair a master cylinder, and then hopefully we can get these brakes in tip-top condition.